So Pip for
Hi.
so for everyone that's tuning in, Pip is one of my best friends. Like this probably will be giggly, maybe a bit silly because we're like, oh my gosh, like I'm interviewing Pip. I'm like, it's gonna be like a conversation that we normally have like on the phone, but except we're not talking about moaning about things. We're gonna be being like no, not grown up's not the word, but you know what I mean. We're going to be talking about the moon and Pip's practice, sort of lunar inspired practices, Pip's yoga studio, and yeah, I'll be interested to see where this goes. Actually, I want to say expect the unexpected, but then I don't want to hype it up, and people are like, "Oh well."
That went nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. But for anybody who is like new to you and your work and what you do, would you mind like just introducing yourself to the crew and like who you are, what you do, and like in a way of like as if you're at dinner, like not the website spiel, like if you're at dinner,
Okay.
like like just really relax,
Yeah,
like in that way, because I think sometimes we can overthink it, can't we? And
totally.
we've got our thing, and I think sometimes it's like, if you're at a dinner, I got asked this in a podcast and I was like, that's so good because it makes it easier to explain it,
hmm
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, I try to always talk about what I do in a really normal way anyway.
Yeah.
And that maybe is what sets me apart from a lot of other people. So I work in yoga. Is that the right way of putting it? Guide classes. Things are very slow and sensual. And it's just about coming back to yourself and really experiencing how you are. But I'm really inspired by rhythms of the universe in which we live, and these kind of filter down in various forms, from like seasons and lunar rhythms, even daily ones.
And you're even like, you are the queen of naps as well.
I am the queen of naps too. Yes, totally.
And teaching people how to have the best nap ever.
Yeah, yoga nidra, yogic sleep it's my it's the golden arrow in my quiver, if you like, of yogic skills. It's my daily practice. Yogic sleep, yoga nidra. Take a look at it.
But
If you're
and
not familiar,
you've got someone Insight Timer as well, haven't
I
you?
have got some on Insight. There's also some on my website that you can
Oh,
get if you subscribe to
fancy.
the newsletter.
But like, I think that's the thing, like for you, you're a very busy person, and
Mhm.
all of your practice, like you've got your yoga studio, you've
Yeah,
got mentoring that you do, you've got your Lululemon ambassador, like you've got a studio. If I haven't, we've already said that, but emphasizing now studio available online
welcome.
wherever you are. Amazing classes. But for you, the slower practice is what helps you kind of go that fast and keep that pace, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. It's the idea of yoga being a balance to what you do is a really useful way to think about it. I go, quite frankly, hell for leather through a lot of my life. I'm a
Like the
very fast
hamster.
person. I am. Well, my spirit animal was a hamster. And I did a spirit animal meditation with Tamara a few years ago. And it's totally me. It's this constantly doing, constantly going, where's next? Do, create, create, create. And to balance that out, and so that I don't burn myself to a frazzle, my practice, it used to be really fast, but now it's super slow. And it supports me, which is really important. Definitely.
How did you, do you find that your practice changes all the time, like depending on what's going
Yeah,
on?
totally. I've been talking about this to somebody today, because we're coming out of lockdown at the moment, in case you listen to this in 2 years' time. We're coming out of lockdown at the moment. And
That's going to be so surreal, isn't it, for
I know,
someone?
it's
They'll be
going to be
like, oh
mad.
yeah, do you remember that
Lockdown. And lockdown has given me this chance to really slow down. So I'm not running around the studio. I'm not running between studios teaching. And I've cut back on how much I teach as well, because Zoom yoga, I find a completely different energy exchange to seeing actual real life people.
In what way do you find it more?
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
I feel like I've taught or guided for 3 hours when I've done an hour. And I used to be able to do 3 sessions a day if I went to different studios. And yeah, I'd be tired, but now 1 hour and I'm like, I'm checked out mentally.
Why do you think that is?
For the rest of the day. It's because you can't, there's so much more than seeing somebody, isn't there, to any interaction. And I think it's a reminder of what we're craving, and the internet's amazing.
Yeah.
And there is that sense of connection, but also it's hugging people, isn't it? It's touching people if they want that. It's seeing people in 3 dimension, not in 2. There's a whole other conversation to have about consent in yoga.
Yeah, but, I was going to say the C word.
Totally. But it's tough seeing people in 2D all the time. We're kidding ourselves, aren't we? We're kidding our brain that this is good for us. But in fact, it's tough.
And I guess like, I know even when I've done one of your classes, like even though I'm doing whatever the thing that is that you're telling me, like, I can see you just looking to make sure that everyone's safe, like, and they're in a position and they're okay. Whereas that's harder when you're looking through a screen.
Totally.
Whereas if you're in front of you.
Totally. You know, there's as much it's a practice together when I'm guiding you. I'm seeing what you're doing, and the way that everybody's behaving and moving can really kind of shift my plans or the way we were going. Not that it's all just let's see how it goes. Yeah. There's always a plan. Yeah. But it's very much seeing how people are and what's going on for them today. And then that can allow us perhaps to make moves that are more nourishing for what we need that day.
And maybe that's the other thing about it, feeling the energy being different, because everyone's going, like 2020 is like just a pretty traumatic year on so many, in different levels, isn't it? So people are processing it, so it might not be actually like just the fact that you're doing it online, but the space that you're holding and what people are coming to the classes with is a lot more.
Definitely. There's a lot of feeling that's going on and people are quite overwhelmed. I was talking to somebody the other day about anxiety and how interesting, if that is the right word, it is that now people who've never suffered from like clinical anxiety and have never been able to understand how people with anxiety might be feeling, because of Corona, they now understand. You know, it's they've been there, they've embodied it, they've felt it, and it's made it more real for them. Not that the whole nation has suddenly got clinical anxiety, that's not what's being said, but people now maybe have a better understanding of what other people are going through, which I think will maybe forge the path ahead of people being a lot more supportive of each other.
Yeah, I think a bit empathy.
Yeah, totally.
Because we're kind of like, and there's a thing, I can't remember who said it, but there's this, everyone's like, oh right, we're all in this together, but we're not. It's like we're all in the same sea, but we're in different boats.
Yes, that's a very, very, very eloquent way of putting it.
And like we're kind of experiencing, but I think it is that awareness of like what we've taken for granted, and maybe for some of us in certain situations, what a bubble we're in. And then everything that's kind of going on this year of just being like, what affects one person affects everybody. It's that interconnection, which is what yoga's all about. Isn't it? And that's the thing, like like the union, the yoke. But like I know a lot of people, when they think of yoga, like they associate it with the active aspects of it, like of being like, I know when I've said I'm not very good at yoga, and you're like, yes you are. Like you're doing it, you don't have to be good at it, like, and it can trigger a lot of people's perfection tendencies or their relationships with their body, but one of the reasons why I love the way that you guide people through yoga is it's through feeling into your body and slowing down. And it's about what I'm thinking of it in this way of like, you know, where they say like how to get ready for a beach body, like go to the beach. Like it's the same thing, how to be good at yoga, like get on the mat.
Exactly. Exactly. But my yoga wasn't this to start with. You know, I used to be feisty, I used to be really perfectionist. I'm one of those people that likes to be good at stuff. I think most of us are. But I get really, really annoyed with myself when I'm not. And I found myself getting really aggravated by my practice sometimes. And that was a massive lesson, because that's what yoga does. It puts a mirror up to you, and you can see yourself in all of your maybe ugly glory some days, depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
It illuminates the parts that maybe you're trying to ignore. And it made me realize and kind of find another way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think as well, yoga's evolved a lot. We think of it as an ancient practice, firstly. It's not that old, particularly asana. This is all, it's not thousands of years old. The older scriptures are, but what we're seeing in the West practiced is definitely like nouveau yoga. It's not what we think it is quite often. There is a lot of misconception. But also it's really practiced by men to start with. That's who practices before. And a lot of the practices are really suitable for male bodies. And I have a female body. And I need something different to nourish me, basically. So I managed to luckily find guides, find teachers that inspired me to do this. And Shiva Ray is, well, she was kind of my gateway drug into this stuff.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
How
She's
did you
really
find
into
her?
One of my yoga teacher friends, Bess, who I love practicing with Bess. And then I was like, who's your teachers? And then we started to go through the trainings together. And yeah, I find that's the best way with yoga, to ask who is inspiring somebody and kind of go to the same stable, if that makes sense. And it's okay to have more than one teacher too. So Shiva Ray like inspired me. She's deeply into rhythms and ritual, and it's beautiful. And what's the right word? There's so much reverence in what she does. And she illuminated the path for me of what elements work at different times of the year, and different times of the cycles in your day, in the month, and how this is displayed in your women's cycles, lunar cycles, all of them. So I kind of began to connect. But now I have another teacher that I see a lot of, and she's about embodiment. So I've kind of found all of these wonderful calendars, if you like, that now I've really been able, and she showed me what was going on, but now I'm really, really, really able to connect into my body with like embodiment practices.
And what is
maybe where yoga's heading?
Yeah, and for anyone that's like, what does embodiment mean? Like, how would you describe
it's a huge question. And the problem is that we try and think about what embodiment means, but it's a sense. As this might be a little bit round the houses, so bear with me. We tend to disclaimer. Yeah.
Buckle in, guys. Get ready for this.
We all live up in our heads, right? We think that this is us. We are our thoughts. But that's the consciousness arising from the brain cells. Okay. We have consciousness through all of us. Okay. Your little fingernail, that has consciousness. Okay. Your earlobe, that has consciousness. Your eyebrows, they have consciousness. But it's like, it's mad. But all of our body we can connect to, but most of us are just living up in here. And being able to drop down and travel through your body, it literally blows my socks off on a regular basis, because I'm like, I'm 39 and I have never been able to experience what is actually going on in me and has been going on with me all this time.
Yeah.
And I've just never noticed.
Because we're in our heads.
Because I'm up in my head all the time. I don't know. Some people are really fortunate, maybe. Is that the right word? And they're connected when they're really young, but it didn't happen for me until I was in my 30s. And honestly, being able to actually be in your body and listen to what the heck is going on, and everything being temporary, like moving through like weather systems some days, it's just one of the most beautiful things. And yes, former me would have laughed at this comment because I do sound like a massive hippie, but it's really true. And yeah, every time I'm on my mat, there is some kind of, whoa, there's something that I can learn from just listening, just from feeling. Yeah.
And but that's the thing, like our bodies are trying to give us messages all the time.
Yeah.
All the time, whether it's through our health, whether it's through an ache or a pain, or like if you're doing like yoga and that embodiment practice, like you're feeling your way into your body.
Yeah, totally. And you're working through whatever it's holding on to. Like if you think about emotions, it's the old classic energy in motion. That's what the E stands for. And so when you're feeling stuff, it's your body kind of realigning its energy, its actual science, and allowing yourself to feel and kind of be felt is really important in this communication with your body.
What I was going to say, and because I think that's the thing, a lot of people are scared of feeling the feelings, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they'll numb
so
out. So as we're saying this, they're like, I don't want to feel it. I'm scared what.
Yeah,
they'll be scared to what come up. But I think when you do open up to it, that's something that I come back to again and again. What you don't own owns you.
Totally.
And it's like this shadow haunting you. So if you want to ignore it, but it's still going to be there. It's still going to make you feel horrible and uncomfortable.
Probably grow as well, right?
Yeah.
A shadow gets longer and longer as the day goes on.
Yeah. And that's the thing. But actually, when you feel it in a safe space, with the right people, that's where the magic happens. That's where the healing happens, isn't it?
Exactly. Feel it to heal it.
Yes.
It's a very, very well-known yogic saying. But it's true. If you give yourself a space where you feel held and you feel safe, it can be so transformative. Like, again, lockdown. I was doing some training courses in the loft of my home via Zoom with Satu, my teacher. And being at home and doing this stuff is next level. I went places that I've never been before. I travelled my whole alimentary canal, which again, it sounds...
Some people are like, I just want to feel... I still can't get over that their eyebrows got consciousness, let alone you travelling through your whole body.
I know, they're like, just tell me about Trikonasana. Tell me about triangle pose. But what was I saying?
About feeling... the home practices...
feeling really safe at home whilst I'm doing this, as opposed to doing stuff in public as well. Not that it's public in a studio, but you're really, really, really able to feel stuff, and then you can just go downstairs and have a cup of tea, and and then pop back up and do some more if you feel like it. I'm deeply into these practices being indulged in at home. It's another level.
Yeah, I've noticed that even from doing my like online moon ceremonies, people open up so much more, even though it's just in a chat box. The people are just more engaged. Whereas when you're in a group, it can feel a bit more intimidating.
Totally.
I think it's often like that social anxiety comes up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that doesn't and I think everyone has that in some way. Or most people have it in some way or another, don't they? Or it shows up in different ways. So when you're in a group, it can take you a little while to warm up, especially when you've just got there and you're like, who are these people? And about to do this deep work. And
especially if they've travelled through London as well, where, you're on a tube with 200 other people and they're all kind of at your energy. You're noticing everything. If you've made that massive walk from your kitchen to your bedroom, then you've not been kind of nibbled at by life, you arrive a bit more whole.
I was just thinking back to the thing of like working with the moon. It's the home, like the moon is one of the things with the moon is the home, like your sense of what makes you feel at home. So I guess it does make sense to be opening up like that. Maybe I'm like, whoa, amazing. Like this is just like Zooms, like really like people really want you to open up. You're going to have to be doing this at home, and then people are sort of dropping in deeper. Then
and giving themselves time to reflect. Again, it's a really lunar thing, isn't it? Rather than being active, it's this kind of openness to reflecting on what's going on.
And I think that's what
Yeah.
this year has all been like. I keep saying it, it's like 2020 is like the year of the existential crisis, which isn't a bad thing. Like, oh,
No,
it can
something
feel,
needed to
yeah,
happen.
something needed to happen, and it can feel like, yeah, it feels like a roller coaster and pretty rocky at times, but also that questioning is getting us into alignment with what our true values are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's only ever a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
Like I said, sometimes when you're navigating, it doesn't feel like it, but it's the shift that comes through that. And I think being able to be at home more, you can
Mm-hmm.
process that, can't you? Not being out,
Yeah.
because most people, something I think a lot of people say to me is like, oh my gosh, like normally I'm so busy, my weekends are booked up months in advance. In the week, they're trying to fit so much into their days and weeks, whereas this year it's been a much slower pace, hasn't it? It's been a lot more reflective.
Yeah, exactly. And it's given people a chance to notice how they feel without doing all the time. You know, I think it's it's the physical stopping, the physical being in the same place, and it's like, what do I really want? Where do I want to be? Has come up for a lot of people.
Yeah,
And
sure.
as well, yeah, definitely. And finding us.
We're laughing because this is what me and Pip this is our WhatsApp conversations. Like, I want a camper van, I want to move to the sea, Devon, Newquay, I don't know, like maybe I just want to do this.
So many.
Yeah.
Look at this house on right move.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's given a lot of us a lot of time to reevaluate of what they want and notice how they actually feel. And I know I've just talked about the embodiment yoga and kind of really extreme things that I've done in it lately, which is like the traveling of the gut.
Yep.
That's not what's normally in a practice with me. I should say this.
Yeah.
It normally it's just a practice where you really get to feel into your body, and it might just be, you know, you start to ease out the tension through some really slow movements. Just begin to connect. It's soft, it's gentle, and it's all an invitation. It's not you must do this, which I think again is what people are finding interesting at the minute, because they have more time to do things.
Yeah.
Mostly because people aren't commuting, and opening themselves into time has been a huge shift for a lot of people. Yeah, but that's what we experience in the practice too.
Yeah, but I think also that thinking of, from whenever I've done your classes, and I really want to say I'm not a yogi. Well, I don't know. I don't do yoga every day. It might be once a month I do one of Pip's classes. But one of the things that I love about that is like you guide us through it, and then you're just like feel into it and find what feels good. And I think one of the things that I think is really powerful from that is like actually asking that question: what feels good for me? Where do I want to be? Whereas often, and then coming back into the body, because a lot of the time it's so external. What should I be doing? Where should I be going? Like all of these things. And part of that is forgetting that we can ask ourselves, what do I want? Where do I want to be? How do I want to feel? But in that moment, in that practice, it is like, oh yeah, I'm just going to stay here a little bit longer. I'm going to put my knee over there.
Exactly. And it's rather than everything being really forced and this sense of right and wrong, which is very, very, very common. It's working out through feeling into your body what is the right thing for you in that moment. So it might be moving towards a sense of expansion. Sometimes feeling expanded and open can be overwhelming. We might not be ready for it. So you've got the opportunity to bring yourself back to where you find that level of comfort, and you learn to hold yourself. That's where it's taking you.
What do you mean by learning to hold yourself?
Like you learn how to feel into your body and work out what's right for you and wrong for you, and you start to really listen. And through that, hopefully, all being there on the yoga, hopefully being there on the yoga mat, you start to feel it in your life too, and you know when things are right for you and wrong for you, just because you've got this, it sounds really magical, this magical way of tuning in to what your whole body's saying. So we're coming out of the brain and into the body's massive wisdom that it holds. You know, gut feeling is a very well-known phrase for a really good reason, isn't it? Because your guts feel. you know, we can tell our heart leads us, our gut leads us too. We can, these are all really common embodiments that most people are really aware of.
Yeah.
Whether you choose to listen to them though,
Yeah.
that's the question, isn't it? I mean, even if you are embodied, you can still choose to ignore it.
Of course. Yeah.
But we do.
Yeah.
But but you know, all of this information is there for us, to get us through life, to find our way, or our body's way towards what it wants us to be doing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I always say to people, and I think for anyone that's listening to this, that I mean, I'm sure this is going to apply to nearly everyone that's listening to this, but if you want to start to be more intuitive, it's getting connected with your body and those sensations and how that feels. Because like you said, that's where that classic, the answers that you're looking for are within. And it's how your body responds to certain situations. And like, for example, like in one of your classes, like you're in that container, like you're in that safe space to feel into like what your yes and your no feels like, in a sense of like, do I want to be here for a bit? Do I don't? So this is like one of my top tips that's going to come through now is that like, it's just, I was like, people need to do your classes. I'm not just saying that because you're my mate, like, but
everybody
just experience like those things of like, hang on a minute, because I say this to people a lot, like it's getting to know what your yeses and your nos are. To trust your intuition, you have to know how that feels in your body and how you respond. So then it's an easier, you don't overthink it, because you just know. I know what a yes is like, I know what a no is like, and in that space there's no anxiety there. So doing it in that container, because a lot of people I know are like, is this anxiety or is this my intuition? But if you're creating a space for yourself, that's not anxiety. You're creating a container to really channel your intuition, aren't you?
Exactly. It's really interesting as well when we do drop into our bodies and we allow our bodies to move us on the mat rather than the brain. And it'd be like, oh, I need to take my foot there, or my knee is at the wrong angle. If I take my knee over my ankle, I will blow up. You know, all of this stuff. If you start to feel into your body and listen to the messages and find a presence below your neck, then things happen really, really naturally.
Yeah.
And that intuition, it doesn't become a yes or no. You just start to do it. There's no questions. It just all happens, like on the yoga mat and bumbling around through life. It all just happens, and there's that essence of flow, which is, it's the dream when you're in it. It can be the most frustrating thing to watch from the outside.
And that's the thing, we're saying this, but it's not that we're always like embodied and connected all the time. Like we still have moments where like, what am I doing, or is this right?
I think as well what's really important is that the practices are there to forge the connections, but to potter around in that connected state all the time, nothing would happen. Nothing. You probably would be quite unproductive. Nothing, you know. I would be probably wafting around in my loft like a big piece of seaweed for a good few hours a day if that was happening. So there's a practice to connect you, and then you've got those tools that you've learned in the practice that then come into the real world, and you'll just notice the feelings. It's not that you must be in all the time, because it's we all know people that are in all the time, possibly.
And I think that's the thing, because one of the questions I wanted to talk to you about, like just being grounded, because that comes through. People want to open up psychically, they want to be woke, spiritually woke, and like doing all the things, but that's not balanced, that's not grounded, because there's an element of that when you're too psychically activated, it disconnects you from the real world. And we're humans, like we've got a body, like we're meant to be engaging and moving around here. And especially if people want to be manifesting things and they're having all these visions, like you said, you need to be in your body. You can't be in this like dreamy state all the time.
So when we connect inwards, we start to be able to connect outwards too, because inwards is outwards, because that's how the universe works. We're all one, aren't we? So again, simplifying huge cosmological
I know. I do.
science there.
On one of the other episodes, like David was talking about how everyone in our dreams are just a reflection of us, of ourselves.
Right.
And you know, when you're just like, whoa, that is just so trippy.
Into the matrix we go.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's his words as well. But that's it, like you were saying, like everything we are, everyone around us. But it's tricky, isn't it? Because when people say that, and say if they're in a not ideal situation,
Yeah.
they're like, well, how am I?
That's how are that? Yeah. So if people are trying to escape, quite often people will turn to a yoga mat. There are a lot of people who look for escapism and not having to think on the yoga mat, and that's cool if that's what gets you through periods of time. And when you're ready, hopefully you come and deal with the rest of it. And hopefully yoga gives you the strength and the ability to be with those feelings, be with those emotions as you're working through them. That's cool. When you're ready, they'll still be there for you waiting.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ungroundedness when people are really in their own inner cosmos is quite interesting. But this again is why the connecting to the seasons and the connecting to the rhythms and actually connecting to nature, because we are nature, as opposed to just being up in your own head with all of this energy that's risen up through your body. I have never been there, so I can't speak on their part with any kind of authenticity.
But it depends on, I think it depends on your journey, doesn't it? And your lifestyle,
totally.
and what's coming for you. I remember watching, there was this like documentary about this guy who went and did ayahuasca. I think Deepak Chopra was in it. Have you seen it? Is it
the young guy that was there on his own?
No, he went with a group, and like he was like married with kids, and then he went and did ayahuasca, and then like ended up, he just couldn't connect to his wife because he'd had this huge awakening. So it was really hard for him to then connect to people that had, so he was very close to the people that he'd gone there with, but found it really hard to reconnect with his family.
This is quite often a problem though, isn't it? If people have these huge dazzling experiences, then and they don't have the skills to integrate it. But that's every time you practice yoga, afterwards you take savasana and your body integrates what's going on, and you give it time, and you know there's repetition of these practices, and you give yourself time to integrate. Quite often with these huge transcendence that can happen plant induced, they're too much for people, and you've got to like integrate it. That's the point. And if you're in the jungle and then you're just out of the jungle and say you're back in New York or you're back in London, then who's holding your hand whilst you integrate? I mean, which can be a huge issue.
And I know, like, and I do know some people that have done ayahuasca and it's been amazing for them, and they haven't felt disconnected. They felt more connection, or they have been like, I feel connected, but I want to go move to the jungle now. Hi, you're all great, but I just actually don't. It's like I could connect with you, but I don't want to. I'm speaking for them totally.
No. Jungle was on my lockdown list of places I'd like to move to.
Was it?
Just any jungle.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind living in the jungle with or without ayahuasca. But yeah, I think that's the thing. It's again, some people, when they're opening up to this, they want these dazzling. I mean, I know I went to Burning Man thinking I was going to have this spiritual awakening. I was so disappointed. Like when had all my outfits ready for the player, like went with my friends, and then like we did have a good time. But when I came back, I was like, still me. Like
so firstly, I always sorry for laughing. I find it hysterical when everybody comes back from Burning Man. And they're just like, no, but I did have a good time.
Yeah.
Because they've spent £10,000 on going out to what is basically a party in the desert.
Yeah.
For a lot of people. And it just makes me chuckle. Sorry.
Cheers, babe. Thanks.
I know a lot of people do get a lot from Burning Man.
Yeah.
But I also know that a lot of people put a massive front on about getting a lot from Burning Man.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I had a good time, but I didn't get what I thought. It was beautiful and magical and amazing, but because you're just in the desert, and the art installations and the sunrises and the sunsets and that vibe of just where everybody's just so friendly, so friendly. That's like, I love that. But like I said, no spiritual awakening. I was still me.
I think
Very
you're great
hungover.
as you are, though.
Yeah, well, but then I went. That's what I came back from that, and then I went and had a reading because I was like, what's going on then? Like, I'm having my spiritual awakening. Like, what's going on? What do I do? And I was looking at kind of like having some healing treatments. And I was speaking to the like psychic, and she was like, no, you're meant to be doing this. It's like, what? Like, she's like, yeah. She's like, come to mind for this psychic development circle. And I went to it, and it just opened up so much for it. And that's for me what my catalyst.
You did have to go to Burning Man to get your spiritual awakening.
Exactly. Okay. So that's in a roundabout way. And I think, again, sometimes we think that the thing is going to be what it gives us, but it's the detour, isn't it? It's like, have fun there.
Journey.
But the next thing is what's going to, and like I said, people can get hung up on the thing that they're attached to it, how it's given to them.
Yeah, totally.
And then when it's not, it's like, oh. But then actually you're given it's come to you in another way.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Like, yeah. But is it? I was just thinking about something else, so it doesn't matter. It's like, I was like just gonna go off on another little tangent. But like, yeah, and I think that's the thing, like for manifestation as well, being grounded is important.
Totally. I think unless you're connected, which is, I kind of see grounded as being connected, like
connected to what?
Where you actually are at.
Yeah.
The sense of grounded. If I think about grounded, I immediately see my feet underneath me, if that makes sense. They're definitely on a yoga mat.
Yeah. Sometimes
that's where my brain goes. I'm a really visual thinker, and I get a lot of interesting visions when I see words, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's that presence in where you are actually at, whether that be in a material basis, so you're stood in your house, or you're in this city, or you're in this moment. And that's what groundedness is to me. It's like here, present, and connected to that, rather than being all up in the ether.
Because I get a lot of people ask me, like, how can I get more grounded? Like, I've been told I need to get grounded. Like, I've got this crystal. It's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many grounding crystals you've got. It doesn't matter how many crystals, like grounding crystals you've got. If you're working overtime and you're in 1,000,001 different places at once.
And if you're all up in your head and in the ether around your body, that's the opposite of grounded, isn't it? That's air. Like, if you're not in anything, you're kind of floating around it, then come down, come back into yourself. But I think as well, grounded is a word that is bandied around a lot,
and I think people use it and they don't really know what it means.
Incorrect sense, or certainly not in a sense that resonates at all with me. And it's not my feeling of groundedness. And I know we can all have different interpretations of words, and that's cool, but I see it a lot when I'm trawling the internet. And I think
it's like asking people, and I think that's a really powerful thing for people to, if you're using a word, what does that word mean to you, rather than I'm just using that because so and so who I think is like really profound is using it.
She's got 300,000 followers. I can't use it.
Yeah, she said grounded, so like every other word is grounded now. No, I'm sure no one does that, but I think
they do.
And I think when I was starting out, really getting into all of this, like, you see all these words and you use them and you say them because you think that that's gonna make you legit, or what other people are using. Okay, but if you, like I said, taking that time to maybe just journal. If I'm saying grounded, what does that? What comes up? Like, how does that make me feel connected? Because, like, as you're sort of describing how grounded makes what that makes you think of. It is about like just being here now. Like it's being in the moment, and like being grounded, like it's the earth. And if you look at like a tree or bush, I'm like just looking outside my window for inspiration. Yeah. Some hardy perennials, like right. It's roots are in the earth, and it's there. And I don't mean to be like then we're stuck, but it's just that in each moment you are where you need to be, and knowing that.
And that connection down is nourishing as well. It's feeding it information. You know, trees talk to each other through their roots too, don't they?
Yeah.
And it's feeding water, you know, bacteria are feeding the plants too. I'm a massive science geek. So that connection down, that groundedness is actually super nourishing as well.
What would be, from your perspective of what grounded means, what would your like 3 tips be, or suggestions or practices? Like it can be one of the combination to get grounded.
Find your feet. And I know that sounds, again, that's a great yogaism. Find your feet. Well, they're always at the end of your legs. Let's start there. But maybe begin to play. I'm going to do it with my hands because we don't need to see my foot on the screen. But play with the toes, just like almost like you're playing a piano with them, and just give your body some information to feed back, so that that conversation begins between your head and your toes, and you can find them then. And then as you let yourself,
I'm doing it now.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But the thing is, see exactly, just if you are watching on Zoom, you can see what Tam's face just did. If you're not, like her eyes half closed, and her eyes went up into her head, which is what happens when we drop into our senses. We shut down the ones on the outside. So shutting down your eyes as well is a really good thing to do, because then you can feel it, and let your knees soften. Let yourself be a little bit more heavy towards earth, not pushing down, but let yourself kind of pour down rather than pushing. And hopefully your senses will find you there.
And is there like one, because that's 2, you need to give us one more.
It's 3.
What was it, 3?
Find your feet, close your eyes and soften down.
Oh, okay, and soften down. All right. But if someone, like thinking of people like needing to, if they're feeling overwhelmed and they're feeling like stressed or anxious, what would be like the one position? Is that a weird question that they could could like stop, drop, and like either get into?
I find.
Do you say hold your belly? Sometimes. Is that
curling up in fetal position is a great place if you are completely overwhelmed and at home, and that's possible.
Yeah.
Maybe
not in the office. On the office floor.
Yeah, possibly professional suicide if you're back in the office.
Yeah.
But if you take your hands and put them on your lower ribs, so your thumb comes around the back of you, and the fingers come towards the front, and just let both of your hands rest there, kind of like, I always say this and it really annoys me, kind of like I'm a little teapot, but both sides are handles.
Okay, yeah.
That makes sense. And just letting your hands be there and feel your breath moving into your hands. You don't really have to do anything. You just let the hands rest there. In our bodies, again, that massive, massive, massive intelligence they've got, it'll do the rest. And what will happen over time, you have to give it some time, your diaphragm will start to breathe you even more, because that point is where your diaphragm attaches to your ribs. So it's point.
So what's happening, what scientifically or biologically, what's happening when you do that? Your
hands are amazing at making things appear bigger to your brain. So your hand and your tongue basically feedback loads neurologically to your brain. And so if you take your hands onto a point in your body, your brain will become aware of that. And then where your awareness goes, energy flows. All of these amazing little lines I've got for you today. But your brain just becomes aware of the diaphragm. It wakes up and it will start to breathe you. And when your diaphragm is breathing you, everything changes. Your nervous system will take you back to the calm zone, to parasympathetic, out of fight and flight, which is really good if you are up in your head. Like arriving in a soothed body, You're just feeling your breath.
Yeah, I'm just still here. Sorry. Went somewhere else then. But I think that's the thing.
No, it does. It instantly, it
Mm.
helps you drop down out of your head too. It's a subtle and really, really, really powerful practice that you can do anywhere, without looking like you're doing yoga, if that makes sense.
Oh, Fang's come home. Fang? Yeah. I'm just recording a podcast. Basically, he's come home like all hot from this heat wave, and I'm like,
oh, I'm sorry, and it's all my fault.
No, you don't have to apologise. I'll be like, it's Pip. He's like, oh, Pip again. Yeah, blame her.
Blame her.
But that's the thing. I think all like these little hacks is like at different. We feel different at different times of the moon as well. Like
yes,
and it's riding those waves, but having something like having that just be like as your little check-in point.
Yeah, come back and feel what's going on. Yeah, and come back into your body and out of your head. I think that's the essence of it all. It's really not complicated.
No.
It's beautifully uncomplicated, in fact. But yeah, different times of the lunar rhythm, we can begin to really sense different energies. Yeah. And this, I think, preaching to the masses on this one really, but you know, a lot of people are very aware of heightened emotions around full moon, and you know, that energy that carries you into the new moon, and you can actually feel them, you know, and maybe we can begin to play with our practice and play with a sense of elemental theory within our bodies at different times of the cycle as well.
So would you think more like slower practices for sort of like the waning moon, new moon? Or
I think if you're practicing with the moon for a start, it's all slow, right? It's all really slinky. The moon's reflective, isn't it? It's got no light. Everything is a really reflective practice. It's slow. I'm going to say that again. It's slow.
It's slow. For emphasis.
Yeah, totally.
For the people in the back, it's slow.
It's slow. And there's this time to really reflect on how your body's feeling, where you're going next. It's really watery as well, isn't it? The moon really affects tides. We have tides within us too. So it's fluid. And you give yourself a real chance to feel. In yoga, the sun is masculine and the moon's feminine. So, you know, this is a really feminine form that you can begin to explore. But with the elements tying in, so the first quarter, if you think about things are just getting going, it's starting to build. This is associated with fire. This is Shiva Ray's teachings as well, just to credit her for her genius on introducing it into my life. So the first quarter is all about fire, which is the most creative element. You know, it transforms, it shifts, it moves, it's never still, you know. There's that real heat behind it, and you know, all the new moon manifestations, put that fire energy behind it in your practice, and you can really start to see things shift a load faster. And then after that, you go to earth, and that's when things really start to grow. You know, you've had that. It's almost like you've raised the ground with the fire, and now your new shoots, your ideas, they start to creep up from the ground, all of the roots that they've grown, and you start to see things kind of begin to form, you know, and you just have to keep going. Find that groundedness to what you're doing. So, you know, make sure that you are still on the right path. It still feels like the right thing to do. Still stay really present. And then you're at the full moon and ta-da, everything's there. Your flowers have grown, as it were, your ideas. And then after that, the air element comes in as the full moon begins to dissolve away. And that's this releasing. That's all the emotional stuff that we quite often feel. And it's about releasing, letting the thoughts, maybe disappointments, letting everything go, and kind of
Probably a lot of
blow
it.
through.
Disappointments will be a big thing for a lot of people.
Exactly. And life is pretty full of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just in letting go of or similar. You can't be attached to what you've just created. Non-attachment is a huge yogic principle to live by. So even if you have created something amazing, it's like, yeah, I've done it, but also it's not your property. So you let it go. Let other people have it, enjoy it, or whatever. And then the final waning moon is really watery, and it's about cleansing. Again, this washing through. So you've released everything, and now it's kind of clean the decks, let everything be ready for the next part. What's done is done, and just come back and reconnect with that flow of what's right for you before that next new moon comes around, which is when again we have this energy to do things. It's really interesting when you drop into it and really allow yourself to go with this lunar sadhana, if you like, and how things can shift, and putting the energy of your body behind the idea of manifestation and creation of the life that you crave. Is that the right way of putting it? The things that you're asking for in the world. It's just the next level, and some of us are really physical in our energy. Some of us are, it depends on who you are, right? I mean, we learned about this at the workshop we went to with Madeline.
Madeline and Anna, the elements.
And how the elements within our star signs, our birth charts, really affect what we do and how we do them, and where maybe our talents lie within certain things. And because I've got so much water in my chart, then so much. Then
Same here. That must be why I've probably said this a million times. It's probably why we're friends. Oh yeah, because you've not got a lot of Earth either, have you? I've got one Earth. I've got my Jupiter is in Capricorn, and that is it.
Yeah, I don't have a single anything in Earth. But
interestingly, I've realised that Fang, like my boyfriend, he is predominantly Earth.
Steve is too.
How interesting is that? We're drawn to it. And even like my other best friends, like one of my best friends, Jamie, she's like an Aries like me, but she's got a lot of Earth and a lot of Capricorn again. So it's interesting how we're attracted to, obviously we're attracted to what we're like. That's why we're buddies. But also there's this other theme of like this, for me, even just thinking about it, like Fang's Taurus moon, Francesca, like Frankie's Taurus moon, and like Lauren's Taurus moon.
Yeah.
And like a couple of my really close guy mates are Taurus. So it's interesting, like how we're attracted, or that shows up together.
Yeah. But how in the person that you want to spend most of your time and live with, they're the opposite.
Yeah.
And that's great, because
how that shows
they
up.
temper it all.
Yeah. So, when I'm thinking of temper, it works. It can work both ways, can't it? Shows how you never see your temper. Remind me, what's your moon sign again?
Well, we thought.
Oh right, yeah.
For a while that I was a triple Scorpio.
Yeah.
But it transpires. I've checked with my family. They didn't know when I was born. Third child.
Okay.
So it's not really on my dad's radar. But we think we've now got a new time, and my moon signs is Sagittarius.
Oh my god, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, my family is so caring. They are great, but they're not detail orientated.
No, I'm the same. My mum's the same. Like it changes. Like my mum and dad both say completely different times. Yeah, obviously. They're gonna. They're not gonna.
I was born in the 80s as well, and dads weren't present at birth then. So
really,
yeah.
I don't know. I was born in Holland, so it might have been different there. I was born at home.
Maybe my dad just shirked it and went to the pub.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that's another story.
Leave that one. Yeah. Shout out to Bill. We have now decided that I'm Sagittarius moon, And I hadn't really looked into it. I just gone, oh, okay. Thank God I'm not a triple Scorpio.
Yeah. Thank God for everyone.
The nation breathed a sigh of relief. And then I looked into it and I was like, oh my God, it's so me. Like my inner me, because that's what your moon sign is, isn't it? It's like my thoughts. And yeah, I was astounded. So many things. I had to screenshot some yesterday, and it's about taking leaps, which I do. Some people think it's to my detriment.
Yeah, but they just don't get
it. But I'm, with running the studio, they just don't get it. They're into safety.
Yeah. But that's why that's with the
but like the studio, taking things online.
Yeah. But that's so Sagittarius, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's breaking up a little bit.
With the what?
Oh, sorry. Are you there?
Exactly. Felt was the right thing to do. Oh, yeah. Hi.
Yeah. Rather than sorry, it cut out. But
so
like
before lockdown had actually been announced and we didn't have to lock down, I woke up one morning. I'd been toying with the idea of shutting the studio, and I remember waking up on Friday the 13th and just going, I've got to do it today. And went in, and as soon as the morning class was done, which I didn't want to cancel because everyone's coming in, obviously, I'd shut the studio and everyone looked at me like, what? I was like, no, it's the right thing. I know it's the right thing to do. And yeah, doing things like that, bearing in mind, I've only had my studio open since last November. So it'd been open for like 4.5 months and I had to shut it down. I thought it would be for 2 weeks. But doing things like that, which not many people I know would do, is what I realized afterwards. And I'm like, this is so Sagittarius. I'm really ready to listen to what I feel is right and kind of go with my feelings rather than my thoughts, which
And do you think that was also your intuition?
Yeah, totally. And
when that came through, like, how did that feel like in your body? What was that?
It was guts. It was definitely like it was guts.
In the gut, massive fart.
No, just like this, you just know. And I'd spoken to some people about it, and they were just like, "Oh, I need to talk to other people." I was like, "Can you not feel it though? Does it not feel like the right decision?" Then I need to talk to other people, and I'm like, this, and I find it quite frustrating to not listen to my body now. And for me to be back in my head and trying to get someone else to do it at the same time I was doing it. And in the end I was just like, if I can't wait for you, this has got to happen. And so kind of going back to my flow with it all. It's really weird. And your body, or my body, really gets quite uppity with me if I'm not listening.
In what way?
It's like the gut thing gets stronger and stronger and stronger. It literally starts shouting at me. It's like hear the whispers or you get shouted at. People end up in pain, don't they, when they don't listen to their body. And I think that these messages as well can come through, like they can wake you up in the middle of the night if you're on the wrong path. I'm sure loads of us have woken up, when you can't sleep, that's your body waking you up. And the stuff that you're then thinking about, that's being served up to you for a reason quite often.
I remember, I'm not going to say what it was, but like I'm telepathically telling you because but like there are things that come up and it doesn't go away, and you'll be doing something completely unrelated to that situation and it's just in your head. And it's like you're getting nagged at. And I'd be like at a sound bath when you could go to them and be these thoughts about this situation would come in. It's just like, why? Or before you're going to bed. And it's that niggle, it's that nagging feeling, and it gets louder and louder and louder. And I think now that took me a little while to make a decision on that, because I was like just trying to do the right thing and like going with the flow with it and waiting for the right time. But as soon as I did it, because sometimes that's the thing, we get the answers, but it isn't the right time to act.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
that, and I think that's like it can get confusing. And I think what happens, everything happens when it's meant to. So don't always feel that you need to, if it keeps coming through, like sit on it as well. Like don't feel like you've got to act on that impulse straight away.
Yeah, there's a huge difference on the yoga mat and off the yoga mat between reacting and responding. Okay. And in conversations.
Yeah.
I am very good at reacting in conversations with people. If yeah, when I used to have a real job, a corporate job, they used to live, my boss used to phone me up the day before and give me bad news on the phone secretly, so that I didn't react to it when she told us all in the meeting, because she knew that that's my very natural way of being.
Right.
And slowly I've begun to increase that length of time with yoga, just because I'm learning, and everything's learning, isn't it? You don't arrive complete. I know it's boring, but through feeling and listening to my body on the mat, I've slowly been able to creep time between getting information, which is the sensing, the feeling, and then reacting to it. So maybe there is a gut feeling, but then maybe that goes again. Maybe it gets stronger and stronger. And when you feel ready to respond, that's when you should respond. Reacting is quite short-sighted. When you're on a yoga mat, maybe in a yin form, or in an argument with somebody, also works there. So yeah, finding that space and giving yourself time to respond that's a massive game changer. We've all had emails that have arrived and we've been really angry and dashed off something really quickly, and then thought afterwards, should have waited. I've got something so much better.
As soon as you've sent it,
so much
as
better,
soon as you press send,
said.
It's really literally that second. This is really good. I should have said that.
Exactly. But you've got to give yourself this time and to form what's going on, and for your body to inform you what it does need, maybe, or what the right thing to do is. So yeah, responding, not reacting, is really important.
And that's the thing, like you said, responding to those signals, but also knowing that if they keep coming up and again and again and again, and they're getting louder, that it's coming up for a reason. That you're not great, and even if people around you try and dismiss it, or talk you out of it because they don't get that feeling. Like, again, like you were saying, for you, like, right, I want to open the studio, or I want to do this, and people are like, whoa, like what you do?
Why are you doing that?
Yeah, like, just because, don't let other people's limits be your limits.
Yeah, if you want to make a decision on something, speak to somebody else that's doing the same thing. Don't speak to people that aren't brave enough to do stuff themselves.
We talk to each other about a lot of stuff. Like, I wouldn't talk to like our work things. We've got different businesses and different kind of, what's the word,
different corners,
and like different, I guess, business models. Like we would always naturally do things very differently, but we've still, like, we always bounce ideas off of each other, don't we, or use the other one as a sounding board. So much sounding boards. just to check it out. And I think it's important to have that space, and that there are, if you haven't got those people around you, there are membership platforms. Like we've both been members of the Coven. Like if you haven't got that around you, you can, and now with the internet, you can find these people. You might not be able to go for coffee with them because they live in another country, but you can still have that support. Like creating that space.
It's amazing as well how when you do speak to people who, because of that interconnectedness as well, everybody has the same trials and tribulations. They might be selling something completely different to you, but most people struggle with the same stuff. And even if they look like they've got the stuff together, most of the time they have questions. Basically, that's me and Pip. if anyone's looking at us being like, they've got it all together, like there's a lot of WhatsApp backwards and forwards of just that, just processing things, because that's how it is. But like, I think Brene Brown says something about, like, she wants to be, it's about taking advice from the people that are in the
in the rink, not the rink, but you know what I mean.
The
What's
ring,
the gladiator
boxing
pit
ring.
that's in the gladiator pit? Like if they're in it, there's something. I'll find it. I'll write it in the show notes, or find it and use it in the outro. And I've probably completely ruined it. It's probably not what she said anyway, but but there's something about it's like it's taking advice from people that are in the ring, like the people that are doing it. Because say if someone works in a completely different industry to you, or has it, that's not where they want to be, taking business advice isn't always isn't always helpful. And I think when you are trying to get something, if there are people that are tuning into this, maybe thinking like, I'd like to open up my own studio, or I'd like to become a yoga teacher, or I want to be a tarot reader, or write books, like make sure that you are cultivating your support network, because that's what you need that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've opened the studio all on my own. Like I am still a staff of one. I have somebody starting in September when we're hoping to reopen, like as an admin support studio manager. But it's been a year and a half of planning and plotting and dreaming and manifesting and meditating and all of the witchy stuff, as well as all the stuff you've got to send to the bank, all of that. And it's a really tough ride to do it on your own. And people don't realize, I didn't realize
it. Well, I just thought, I was like, oh yeah, I just want to be a tarot reader healer. Like half my life, most of my life is admin and emails and organizing things to get in place. The actual percentage of me doing sessions with people and doing events, like it's the pie that's different. It's so much, it's a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be, but the rest is so necessary to be able to do that.
Yeah, totally. And the stuff that fills you up to do the rest of it becomes more and more and more important as the juicy bit. So like your readings that you don't feel like you're doing any of, that you probably love doing, you're like, I want to do this for the world. And I'm still the same with sharing yoga, but now I teach, like, I've just changed it, excuse my finger counting. It's like 5 times a week now. When I lived in London, I used to do 16 a week. And slowly this stuff that I love is shrinking down and everything else is growing back. And there's a lot of support needed in the background to keep me going whilst I do all of the other bits of plate spinning.
That's the thing for a lot of people. They think that is the first thing to go. You get stressed, you get busy, out goes your self-care, out goes your practices, because you think, but I've like, you learn
it's
the hard way.
Definitely happened to me.
Yeah, it's happened. You do it, and then you do it, and you're like, this is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Actually, and I think it's so much programming that we have to be like on all the time and push, and think like, all right, the first thing you do is like open your eyes, wake up, and like check your emails to get ahead of yourself, and you're actually putting, I think you think it's a trick because you think you are, but actually you're putting yourself behind, because you're not going in, you're not starting the day intentionally, and then you're not as efficient as you could be throughout the rest of the day.
And also what emails have actually arrived that need tending to first thing in the morning.
Exactly. And you're probably not going to reply to it there and then either. You're going to have seen it and it's going to be floating around in your subconscious, and you're going to be doing something else but not fully present being there, because that email, you're rewriting it in your head, like replying to it in your head, but not actually doing that.
Exactly. So get grounded before you email.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then you're going to be less reactive.
Exactly. So see how it all...
the right things. It's all connected. But I think that's the important thing. It's like being grounded, like doing the things that nourish you and recharge you. Like, I know for me, when I'm and getting to know what your signs are for getting burnt out.
Yeah.
And when you're slowing down, because we, again, at different phases of the month and different phases of your menstrual cycle, you will feel like you can do anything and you can take on the world and you've got unlimited energy. And then there's other parts of the cycle where you are like,
I go to bed for a day. I'm done. And slowly, finally, I'm starting to notice this. Instead of like pushing through it, I just give up and go and nap. And it feels really indulgent, and beautiful. Like those naps are like no other naps.
That's why you're called the Queen of Naps.
That's why I'm called the Queen of Naps. But yeah, it's a game changer when you start to, again, it's this sense of feeling into your body though, isn't it? Not living by your to-do list. And maybe freelancers are really fortunate in that they can do that.
Yeah. But then again, they don't give themselves permission to. It's licensed to.
Yeah.
They can, but then
when did a freelancer last work 9 to 5 as well? They don't. They're long days and they're every day, and it's a different fish basically. But yeah, giving yourself a chance to feel and listen to what's right for you is so important. It's funny as well, because when I get towards burnout, the things that drop are all of the things that are really good.
Of course.
And the things that accelerate and start to do more are the things that destroy me. It's such a weird thing. Like if I get really tired, I will stop meditating. I'll stop listening. There'll be to-do list driving stuff, but in fact I'll just spend a lot of time scrolling and being in the internet as opposed to in the body. And yeah, it's mad. And I get whacked with this learning probably every 3 months.
Yeah,
it's like you've got to come back and listen.
I feel like we take it in turns.
Totally pull each other out of the gutter every 6 weeks. You've got it, babe. But it's mad because like the studio was created because of one of your new moon meditations. That's sowed the gloriously golden seed for it all. And yeah, if you've ever wondered how powerful they are, they're very, very powerful. I ended up doing this meditation turning gold. I double dropped it because I fell asleep the first time because I was burnt out, and then did it again. Everything turned gold, and then the next day I went in to see who is now my landlord, and he was like, oh, you can't have this studio, but there's one better upstairs and it costs you less money. And I was like, huh? This is good. After doing this meditation with pyrite. And then 6 months later, on the full moon of that new moon,
Taurus,
it was all ready and it opened, and it's the most insanely beautiful testament, I think, to all of this stuff.
Back to the moon made me do it
that we talk about. You know, the moon made us do it, and this is how powerful it is. And I know that that's this huge force that can create so much change for me. And yet I still, when I get tired, it's the first thing to go. Maybe because the creating is also exhausting and it's my body's way of not having me do anything else for a while. It might be a weird self-preservation kind of maneuver.
But I think also sometimes when you've got a lot going on, you can't, if you're not aware of it, you go into survival mode.
Yeah.
So of course the self-care doesn't go, because you're like, I've just got to stay alive. I've just got to get through the day. You know, and if you were like back in the I don't know, like caveman times, like that would be the thing. Like I don't know. They would be like, I've just got to eat. I've just got to hunt down a saber-toothed tiger and
I've just got to eat.
Yeah, sorry vegans. But like but that's I think something that like when we're in survival mode, but again that maybe that's just a trigger in our brain and we think we're in survival mode but we're not. We're kind of like, but we think we kind of go into that scarcity and that fear
as well from the feeling.
But the self-care
if we feel like we should be doing stuff, if we feel like we should be doing stuff but we haven't got the energy to do stuff, then that can be a really difficult pill to swallow too. So you know, you can pretend to be working on other things, can't you, when you're not. So rest more, people.
Rest more.
Meditate more.
Lay down, and that's. I think meditation is important, even if it's just for 10 minutes. And it doesn't have to be for some people. Meditating, listening to an app or in silence, like is not for them. But doing some yoga, or doing a practice where you're getting back into your body, where you're not scrolling on your phone and you're just in the moment, or something that's meditative, or just sitting and having a cup of tea and just looking out of the window, looking at the birds, pondering life, rather than on the phone.
Standing up and giving your body a really good rattle. Put maybe like a 20-minute track on. Find one
Like create
if you
I
don't
like
know
to
any.
like creating
And
playlists.
yeah, and just
Right.
rattle your body around, shake it, shake it, shake it.
Yeah.
And that will reset everything. I love the idea of an app for meditation, but I also know that as soon as I'm done it, the phone's in my hand and I end up back in that.
So
And when you've
addictive,
just taken
isn't
this
it?
time to get in your body.
Mm.
So it's, avoid if possible,
Yeah.
I think.
Find
Yeah.
ways. So what I was going to say, so as like one of the questions that I'm asking everyone as we start to like wrap up this episode, if you could go back to another phase in your life, when would it be? And this could be to just enjoy it or to tell yourself something.
That is a big question. In a way, I probably don't want to change anything, and that's that.
No.
In the most humble way possible,
Yeah.
to express that. I wouldn't change anything. Not that life has been beautiful and charming, but it's been full of lessons.
Yes.
So maybe to my teenage years, when I just so that I could exist in them again, but be a bit more chilled.
Would it be like with what you know now? Would you like to just experience
probably.
it? Just, like sometimes, like just for the day, would you like to go back?
I was a really mundane teenager, just to put that out there. I just used to ride horses all the time. And like, that was all I wanted to do. But going back and being able to really appreciate that, knowing perhaps that once you're grown up and you start working, things change so much.
It's that classic, isn't thing, when grown-ups say to you, like, enjoy it, no, enjoy it. Yeah, exactly.
Not to tear up the clubs like I was doing later on in my years, but take me back there so I can hang out with the horses, please. That would be a sweet dream. Maybe that's the future too.
I was going to say, I was just thinking, like, book that in.
That's the future. The farm and the horses. Yes.
Oh, nice.
I'll write that in.
Put that in. That's your next manifestation.
I don't think I'm ready for it yet.
No.
Don't think
you could just go horse riding.
I could go horse riding. Yeah. That's really simple. And that's the thing. And that's the thing with loads of these things that we always end up wanting, isn't it? It's like, just do the damn thing.
Yeah.
Just, if you want to go horse riding, go horse riding.
Yeah, don't wait until you've got the. You
don't need £1 million house and
what's it called?
£1,000 pony.
Is it the range? No, what's it in like Western fields in America? Is it the range? No, the Grange. The ranch.
Home on the
having your own. You don't have to have your own ranch. Like, you could just like book a package of sessions and then go horse riding.
Just go. Yeah. So let's all go horse riding.
And like, what is there anything else that people like need to look out for? How can they work with you and find out more about what you do and follow you? Not in a stalker way.
Look out.
Not in a stalker. Don't follow her. Like,
not down the street.
No.
Immediately I said people need to look out for themselves. That's what it's true.
Yeah.
In terms of
that'll be your quote. People need to look out for themselves.
People need to look out for themselves or look into themselves.
Yeah.
Yoga. Come and join me for some yoga. You can find me at piproberts.com. But the studio is now Studio Bristol. And we are more than just yoga. We've got actual real life solid practices for everyday well-being that are really creative. And there are more traditional yogis than myself there too. But check us out. We are online at the moment. We'll probably still be online for a while. Who knows?
But that's the beauty, because people that will be listening here won't all be in Bristol, so
exactly.
I get to do it.
Cool.
Amazing. Thank you, Pip.
I will see you soon. Bye.